Hey, what's up, guys? This video I'm going to talk about more of scientifically advanced topic, the practical use of taking anabolic steroids, which is having to do with the family tree of steroids, all the different branches of compounds, so to speak, and how to pick the right ones that work best towards your goals. That's kind of so it's an applied science here. Pharmaceutical intervention, as you will, for whatever goals you have, to pick the right compounds for the right goals, okay? So I'm going to try to tackle this as a pretty advanced topic, but I'm going to do the best I can because I think this is really important, especially, it doesn't matter if you're beginners or advanced or in between, okay? HRT, TRT plus, or alongside those. So, to start off with, I have to say that there are three different types of steroids: testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, the derivatives of the dihydrotestosterone, and NOR19 compounds. Now, each one is very similar to the molecular structure of testosterone itself, which is essentially just cholesterol. Like it's a derivative of that. Okay, so and that's what these hormones are, which are androgynous hormones, sex characteristic hormones, ones produced by the testes and in other parts of the body, So that's what we have to start with, okay? Now, also what we have to start with when doing steroids in itself is the testosterone base. Back in the day, they could have done an oral version called D-ball or Dianabol, and hypothetically you still could now, but that's not something smart to do. We do injectable testosterone. There's different forms, but I would recommend testosterone cypionate just based on the half-life of around 5 days. If you did that every other day, you'd maintain good blood serum concentration levels. So we'll start there. And testosterone has essentially 1-to-1 ratio of anabolic androgenic, 100-100. So by itself, as a standalone, you can actually get a lot done with it if you just do it in itself. But the issue is, once you start pushing it past, for me anyway, past 300, then you're going to run into high estrogenic effects, higher anyway. So this is where the dihydrotestosterone, DHT derivative compounds come into play, because some of them, not all of them, but some of them, better than others, can either act as like a receptor modulator or actually inhibit the estrogen or the E2, the estradiol in the body, so that you won't get things like gynecomastia and heightened blood pressure and other side effects of heightened estrogen. Estrogen you don't want too high of, but you also don't want too low of. So that's why taking a aromatase inhibitor estrogen suppression drug like Arimidex I wouldn't recommend unless you're doing high amounts of testosterone. If you're doing a gram of testosterone, yeah, you probably might need to take Arimidex. If you're doing 300 or 400, probably not. If you're doing a dihydrotestosterone, that's why I'm recommending it. And this is why on this tree of things, this steroid tree, that's why we take it. We would never take a dihydrotestosterone as a standalone. I have before, Anavar, and it was not a good time, okay? There was some benefits initially, but over the course of a few weeks, the testosterone suppression was not great, so that's why we need to have testosterone as the base. Dihydrotestosterone should be, in my mind, the secondary compound, okay? Now, the two major choices I would recommend on that is Masteron or Primabol, okay? And the one thing I should mention before is testosterone base. We could do just straight up testosterone, but the other alternative is adding EQ, which is also a testosterone derivative as well, okay? So, which is known. I've never done that one, but people do that, especially if they're into like pro bodybuilders. But I think somebody if you want to go a safer route, If you want to go a safer route, I would not recommend that. I would just go with Primobolan or Mastron as a secondary compound. Now, NOR19 is the third compound that you can use, and once you get into an intermediate stage, I do recommend taking a little bit of nandrolone. A lot of people might argue with me with this, but I just from personal experience have had such great benefits with it. The NPP, you could do DECA, but I recommend NPP because if you do run into negative side effects, once you stop or pull back a little bit, those side effects will clear within a few days as opposed to over weeks. So yeah, if you add a little NPP, which is NOR19, the other NOR19 is Trenbolone. I've never done Trenbolone, but I would not recommend it because there's just so many safer alternatives. Trenbolone has its place if you're like a contest prep for like a bodybuilding show, but I think for your average person, even though you would get no benefits from it, just the side effect profile of it is not great. It's just not worth it for your average gym bro. Even though you look great, you might hit PRs in your bench press and your squats and things if you're running it, no doubt. But you're going to run into a lot of other issues where if you just ran a testosterone, Mastron, and small amount of NPP cycle, and you trained hard enough and ate well, you're still going to be making PRs as well, but with no side effects. So it might not be as good, but it's going to be still great. Now, the other thing I should mention in this whole family tree has to do with the orals. I did mention D-ball before, but orals essentially have like a methylated kind of on the chemical structure, this like bonds, it's like a double bond or something like that, it's a methylated bond. It's like this extra arm on the chemical structure that allows your digestive system / liver to process it so that it hits the bloodstream and then it can actually target the muscles, as opposed to the other forms. If you were trying to digest it, your like stomach acid would just break it down and it wouldn't hit your bloodstream. So this allows it to be digestible. But the major kind of side effect to that is the effect it has on your liver. And some compounds are better than others. For example, Anavar is known as the safest oral, but even Anavar, you don't want to be running high amounts, so you don't want to be running more than 6 to 8 weeks at a time. Other compounds like Superdrol, Anadrol, Halotestin, again, it has its place, just like Trenbolone. Like if you were a professional and you're in the contest prep, for example, and right before your show, right before you're going on stage, you run a bit of say Superdrol, because it adds fullness and massive pumps and things, because at that time period where you're you might be a bit flat. So you're a bit flat going into a show, you add some Superdrol a few days in, and then, I'm no fucking professional bodybuilder, so I'm not even gonna try to talk about that too much. I just know about it. But that's the only application for it. Your normal person shouldn't run Superdrol because, again, there's just or Anadrol, unless you're doing competitive strength training and things, because there's just other compounds that you can achieve all your PRs that you ever wanted without any side effects that's going to be detrimental, especially doing it over a course of time. Because people have the mentality that they want things done fast. And by doing something stronger, more potent, you're going to get those results fast. But yeah, you might for a time period, but then you go off it and then you're going to lose it anyway. And in that process, you detriment your health. So why don't you do something where over the course of time, you retain your gains, like doing Anavar every blast cycle, maybe twice a year. You do 6 weeks of Anavar, maybe 3 times. And you'll retain at least, I'm going to say 60 to 80% of those gains that you made on Anavar. Very anabolic, very safe compound. The other 2 safe compounds that are injectable. So I wouldn't recommend any other orals other than that. But I talked about the family tree of orals a bit. So some of the oral family trees are testosterone. So there's T-ball, Turnball, which is a classic compound used by Olympians. And then there's Dianabol, which was also used by Olympians, but like that's a classic bodybuilding in the 70s and such drug that was used. But there's too many side effects associated with that because it translates to a very aggressive form, called aggressive form of estrogen. Okay, so yeah, avoid orals for the most part, other than Anavar. And like you could technically do T-ball, but it's like I don't know. There's just better options, or injectable options than orals. So that do this better things and safer. So Masteron and Primabol, and because they're so safe, you can tolerate more of it. And because there's more of it, then the cumulative effect of doing more is better than doing smaller amounts of something that's more potent that has side effects. Like, say you do 200 Deca, you might start running into side effects, but you can do 600 Masteron and have no side effects, but at the same amount of anabolic qualities. So what would you rather do? 200 Deca with some side effects or 600 Masteron with no side effects? So that's what my moral of the story is. Testosterone, if you want to put on size and you don't worry about putting on a little water weight, you can push 400, 500 test. If you want to maintain trimness, or like, you know, and you're in recomp, stick with around 300. And then you can add the other compounds on top of that, such as Masteron, Anavar, and then HGH is the other thing, but that's not that's on the steroids, so I'm going to leave that out of this discussion. And then there's also other things like Cialis that can add to pumps, and Proviron is another oral, safe oral, but again, not anabolic. But I'm not even going to touch that one either on this video. So I'll leave it there, guys. This is the steroid tree video, and then picking which ones for what particular purpose. But for a guaranteed 95% of people listening, at least, testosterone, Masteron or Primabol, choose one of those. Maybe Anavar, maybe a little bit, 20 milligrams, like the end of your cycle. And then maybe a little bit of Nadrol, just a little bit. You should be fine. And then HGH, you know, don't forget that. Again, this is an HGH video, but HGH is going to make your quality of gains a lot better. I promise you that. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this video. How did I do tackling the steroid tree, and what picking the best results for whatever your goals are. Most of your goals are going to be in line with the HRT plus, but you know, if you're strength training, you might be picking more things like using Anadrol, higher amounts of testosterone. If you're bodybuilding, you might go the route of taking things like Winstrol and Trenbolone closer to your prep. They're off season doing things like EQ, things like that. So obviously you can tailor this to whatever your goals are, but if you're new to this type of thing, listen to me and do that testosterone, Masteron cycle as your first one, at least. And that can be even for advanced users or guys who have done some hardcore cycles but want to tone it down a notch. Tone it down to mine, and you'll still make quality gains. Right? It might not be to the level that you were doing before when you were redlining Trenbolone for 2 years straight, but you're still going to make it, but you're going to feel better, and feeling better is going to help with the gains too. Okay? So what are your thoughts on that? Leave in the comment section below. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.